he has this sort of turn where he's talked about who Christ is, and he's emphasized, in chapter number 2, he's emphasized what Christ has done. And he's talked about how this gospel raises us to life. And now this turn happens where he's transitioning, not just telling us these assertions of the gospel, but now he's telling us what this gospel actually does, and what this new life in Christ, what it's going to look like. And I think this is really, really key areas for us to focus on, because I think these are areas in which we can get so tripped up and misunderstand the Christian life in so many ways. And I think this was a really good example of that. I think if you, the text this morning, I think, is a good example of how the Bible can be misconstrued. As I sort of started off this morning, I think there's this notion that we are the ones who are able, not only able, but we are responsible for putting sin to death in us. And by some accounts, that's true. By some accounts, we can say this: open ourselves up to sin, or temptation, we could say, and we could also close it off. And so in some senses, what Paul is talking about is just that. Put to death any notion, any sort of even seeming avenue, or even just the hint of temptation. That's what we are strangling, and what we are therefore called to put to death. But by and large, what Paul is calling us to do is to render impotent these things that are earthly in us. That's literally what the word means, put to death. Mortify, we talked about this morning, this process of mortification. Really, if you look up the Greek, it also means render impotent. So this is really where this spiritual life that we are called to live by faith in Christ comes to the surface, where we can call out impotent what is earthly in us, these passions and desires that wreak havoc on our lives and the lives of others. These are what Paul calls us to put to death.